This is in your leg, feet. This is in my toe and
I'm just
well, I had it like 45 years ago once, and I swore never to get it again because I give up. And I grew up in Florida, so I love seafood. And I had to give up shellfish. Oh, he gave me shrimp with that. I know it's not new there. But anyway, the doctor said you can't control my diet.
Yeah, they still call it gout. I just figured that was a medieval name.
Well,
Spit it like
Henry David. So I don't want to ever have well, as long as you don't have anything, you don't know.
This. Can we move it, ma'am? Can we move this table down a little bit?
We're at the judge's table.
So much about getting here early. You saved me a seat.
Well, we were looking here earlier, but somebody misplaced it.
Oh.
And so that took a little while.
Couldn't get the car out of the garage. Did they get it all resurfaced?
And the building's washed. They washed them to the water. This chair is like empty.
Now, don't start complaining.
The chair is getting
We fought 10 people off that chair. We pay top dollar for these things. My life is a story. I don't get up and talk about it. Oh, you were? You did this? Oh.
I've been to the national.
Where you headed? Where's that at? They do that every year? Get up and dance also here. Not part of and I want to sing Party Too Hot. No. Okay. I had chili. Just had a salad.
Not tonight. I'm just going to talk about
That looks really good.
I'm gonna get you up there. They say anyone else that wants it, he's got the best. Road is the one that's got silver. Oh my goodness. Are you over 55? You got 100 rings around your trunk. I don't think it's got a big toe.
You want to see if they'll shut that box right off? You want to see if they'll shut that light off? I'll be over there. I got 3 minutes.
The beer.
Sounds like Santa Claus.
Well, he had Gala here. He's 98. Oh, no, he still drives.
Yes. At 7:30, I'm gonna how much is your car insurance?
My uncle is, listen, they dropped him and he had to go to another agency. It's over 2 years. And I told my dad, I said, listen, my son's been to
I don't think you will be.
Okay.
he likes the freedom.
Yeah.
But they said they couldn't afford it.
We're going to actually get out of here.
I'm glad I got in.
There's no way I can.
He had no Prius. The batteries had all
Change my attitude. I'm ready to go.
new batteries.
Do stuff.
He spent
The public when I was socializing. One thing I didn't do was have one. Really? I had to bring it.
now you can have my aunties will come back. Well, you know you could. Where's this at? Your place?
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Woo! I really don't need a microphone, do I? No.
Those are my years of experience in public education. Listen, welcome. I'm so glad to see you. I'm so glad we are not outdoors. Even though that is our thing. I would like to welcome you on behalf of Freetown Village and Storytelling Arts of Indiana, and our sponsor, Maestro Organizing, as well as our media sponsor, WFYI. Listen, give them a round of applause. Now, you know, tonight's theme is outdoor escapades. I have no escapades from outdoors, okay? Because my idea of camping out is from inside a glass enclosed, air conditioned Holiday Inn. Okay? But if you have a story and the theme is broad enough, I don't know what your escapade could have been outside. I can think of a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
Are there any children in the place? Okay. Keep it clean, keep it clean. That's all I gotta say. The basic rules are the story must be true. What I like to say to people, unless we see your nose grow, how do we know? How do we know? You need to tell it in the first person. I have problems with that. I jump around a lot. And your story can be no longer than 5 minutes in length. Now, we have a wonderful woman by the name of Miss Ophelia. Raise your hand, Miss Ophelia. She will signal you when you have reached 4 minutes. She'll hold up her phone. You might see a light, might be an audible, but acknowledge that you heard her. Because if you go over 5 minutes, we are going to take away some points. I don't mean we personally, but we have judges. We have timekeepers. So I cannot wait to hear these wonderful stories. You may not use notes. I'm using them because every day mine change, okay? Don't read it. I don't know who's going to start. Is there anybody who has a story that wants to start that's not part of the contest? Yeah. Okay. Oh, we're going to deliver some food. I demand a bite of each plate. It's being delivered. No, just kidding.
I don't think the amplifier is turned on.
Well, I'm not over at the microphone either, but we'll take care of it. Hey, damn, I didn't see you over there. Listen, you need to know that the kitchen is open until 8 o'clock.
Somebody had the name SON.
The bar will be open later. That's the part I'll be utilizing today. I want you to know that in August, our theme is puzzles. And we're going to be at the Can movie theater in a private room. Now, we know this event is free. We are not charging you any money. We bring all of the places we go a lot of business. Because for some reason, we like to eat and drink.
Who's Diana?
Diana? You got your food. Diane?
There she is over there.
Freetown Village and Storytelling Arts of Indiana do accept donations. If you want to make a donation today, all you have to do, boys and girls, is text 44321. Okay. With SAI in the body of the text. Thank you very much.
Is there an Aaron in the room? I'm wondering if it's not art. I don't know. Yeah.
The main thing I wanted was my phone.
Or if you don't want to do that, you may also text Storytelling Arts of Indiana to make a secure donation as well. Listen, I'm giving you my whole commercial right now. Because I'm trying to make sure everybody gets their food. I'm trying to make sure my beer's poured with no suds on the top. You know what I'm saying? August is coming up. In August, we have the Indiana State Fair. I know how sometimes people don't want to fill out the yellow slips because they think we're going to call you up. But no, that's not the reason we have you do that. We have a drawing. And this time our drawing is a beaut of a prize. If your name is pulled, you can appear at the Indiana State Fair for the 14th annual Liars Contest. Now remember, there are two categories, children and adults, and they're cash prizes. It's held in the Pioneer Village. It's August 4th. I think you need to be there before 7 o'clock. You can win $100 if you win first place, $50 for second place, and $25 for third place. Now listen, those stories cannot be longer than 5 minutes. They are tall tales. You know what I'm talking about. In Indiana, it's difficult not to come away without a tall tale. So I'm hoping to see people out there at the Indiana State Fair, and you will get a parking pass as well as 2 tickets. Now you can't beat that with a stick. All right, but let's get down to business. Is the microphone on? Is the amplifier on?
I can't see the red light, but okay. Thank you, word for it.
I'm just gonna sit here because I'm comfortable. It's closer to my beer.
It's motion detected, so.
Ah. But during the course of the evening's tales, you'll start thinking of stories because the person who told you a story will remind you of another one.
Remind us.
Thank you. And if you decide later in the evening that you want to tell a story, it's okay. We're here until, is it 8:30? Then they will kick us out, okay? There will be a winner, or several winners. I will reach here and I will pull out a name. And I know we're gonna hear a whale of a tale tonight. And especially because our first storyteller is Dave Garvey.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Expect that, huh?
I'm not used to microphones. Can you hear me?
No, you gotta talk loud. You have to talk as loud as me if you're not gonna use the microphone.
How about this? Better?
Yeah.
Oh.
You can take it off.
Slip it out. Slip it out.
How's that?
Yeah.
Okay. My story goes back to the 70s. I just dropped out of the Catholic seminary, 6 years, and I was a sophomore in college, and I decided I'm going to go west. And I went to Colorado State University. I always wanted to be a forest ranger. And that sounded like an exciting job. So I went west to Colorado State, and I was enjoying the curriculum, having a good time. And I was sitting on a set of stairs in the administration building, and a buddy of mine comes along. He says, "Hey, have you signed up for fighting forest fires?" I said, "No, where do you do that?" And he said, "Right here on this sign-up sheet." So I signed my name up. Sure, what the heck, for next summer. He said, "Oh, by the way, you're going to have to get a haircut." Because in those days, my hair was about down to here. I said, "Well, that's not a problem." I said, that's a good job, well paid, double time, overtime, hazard pay, per diem. It was a good paying job in those days. So I got a haircut, and he said, "Oh, by the way, these guys that interviewed you, they're out of Wyoming, so they're all cowboys." He said, "Just keep that in mind." I said, "Okay, not a problem." So I go to the interview, and I swear to God, the guy's name interviewing me was Hank Bond. You couldn't get more cowboy than that. He asked me if I had fought fires before, and I said, "Well, sure." In Indiana, I think I put out a couple of bonfires. And I said, "I'm also a good carpenter, so in our off hours, I can help you with carpentry." That sparked his interest. He said, "Okay." He said, "Your height." And on my way out of the interview, he said, "Oh, by the way, get a haircut." I said, "Okay." So I got another haircut, and I flew into Casper, Wyoming that summer and rolled in, and I was hitchhiking to Gray Bull, Wyoming, and a girl picks me up. She said, "You look like you're going to go fight forest fires." I said, "Yeah, that's the plan." She said, "Are you working for Hank Bond?" I said, "Yeah, that's the plan." She said, "You better get a haircut." Okay, so not another haircut. I went to the barbershop, I said, "Give me a Hank Bond." And he took care of it. So we flew out of, we were a hotshot crew, and we flew out of an airport in Grable, Wyoming, which ended in a canyon. We were flying an old DC-3, one of those World War II era green planes you see with a little tiny wheel on the back. That's put together with baling wire. That was our plane. And we had to dump everything out to a 35-pound limit. So to get airborne, we had to be a minimum amount of weight. So anyway, the strip ended in a canyon. So you'd feel the plane go out and down, and then would start gaining altitude, and everybody would cheer, and we thought, yeah, that's a good thing. So we went to our first fire in Montana. We got there early morning, and you could see the fire 60 miles away. It was, I think at the time, it was a 49,000 acre fire. And we ended up rolling into fire base in a school bus. They right away sent us immediately down this ridge, which had a crown fire rolling up the top of the ridge. The sap in the trees was exploding, and it was a constant explosion. So we got down the ridge. We took a switchback road up the ridge. In the process, we broke the axle on the bus. They sent pickup trucks for us. We topped the ridge. We looked down into the valley, and here's a rancher with a bulldozer trying to cut fire line to keep the fire from overrunning his ranch, and his wife and his kids are out there trying to put the fire out with blankets, and the fire overruns the bulldozer exploded, and meanwhile, we rolled down these pickup trucks like the cavalry and put the fire out. It was just a fun thing, exciting as all get out. But we were patrolling the fire line that night, and I just want to give you a picture. This is Big Sky, Montana, brilliant stars, and there was a hay mound that was still burning. And fires create these little turbulent tornadoes, like a dust devil, except a little bit bigger. A dust devil came through in the middle of the night, picked up that burning pile of hay, and created a tornado of tracers. It was a sparkly tornado. It went up about 100 feet. It was one of the most amazing sights I think I've ever seen. But that's one of the fun experiences I had with firefighting.
And you did not get that on this.
Thank you. Woo. Tornado, fire tornadoes. Thank you so much. I'm trying to think if I've been to Wyoming.
We can hear back there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that was a good one. I'm trying to think if I've ever been to Wyoming. I don't think so. Reminds me of another story. I can't tell it at this time. I remember when I was unemployed and I finally found a job working as an educational consultant for a book company. And I had an 11-state region. And the first day I had to fly to Rapid City. And I was so excited. And it was, you flew into the airport, you paid 35 cents to park, and you saw nothing. But I do believe I saw the Corn Palace in Mitchell. Okay. So, yeah, I was outdoors. That's my outdoor story. Diane Walton, it is your turn to tell a story, girl. The mic up to your mouth so we can hear you. Okay. Pretty loud, isn't it? Okay.
Testing.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. My story is about when I was about 9 and 10 years old. I lived in a little dinky town, and I had huge woods behind my house. And so that was my adventure. And every day I would go ahead and look for mushrooms, look for wildflowers. I'd look for mushrooms like the inky cap and the meadow mushroom. And my favorite was the giant puffball. I'd look for them forever. I was so excited about it. And then I would go further in and I would find flowers that were just gorgeous. Bluebells, Virginia bluebells, and then daisies everywhere. And so it was just beautiful. And I would do this every day. Go around outside and collect these mushrooms. But then what I would do is I'd come home and I'd use my little reference book and I'd categorize the fungus. Have no idea why I enjoyed this, but I got myself some index cards and I wrote the common name of it and the scientific name of it and where I found it. And then I put it out on my porch and I made myself a little nature center. So when people came over, they could see my display of things. And so I also was able to go to the creek. This creek was just flowing with water and I had the best time. I looked for crawdads and minnows and tadpoles, and I was like, when I found out that a tadpole was going to turn into a frog, I couldn't believe it. So I was really enthralled with what this place had for me out there. It allowed me to realize that you can have compassion for things around you. I learned that all the beautiful colors, the colors of the flowers, and then the leaves when they fall, those reds and yellows, oranges. And then I realized that I really like being outdoors. And so I started camping. And I camped with my family, and I camped with friends, and then I ended up being a camp counselor. And I was outside all the time. And I just enjoyed the fires that they had at night, and then the moon at night that would just glow on top of our cabins. But I realized that nature made me who I am today. I learned compassion. I became a very strong woman because of that connection with nature. And I also learned that Mother Nature is our very first teacher. Thank you.
Now I want to know what city you grew up in. You said that little dinky town. I need to know. Terre Haute. Oh, not Terre Haute.
Yeah, terrible hope. Terrible hope.
I grew up in the city, and my job was to stay inside. Like my mama said, I was the only person she knew who grew lighter in the summertime than in the winter because the sun would not hit me, okay? That's not my thing. But every once in a while, because all the kids would play in our front yard, we would spread a quilt out on the front lawn across the dirt where they played softball. And we'd have picnics. And that's as close as I came to nurturing the outdoors. Because all the kids in the neighborhood would go and get the milk bottles and go deposit those and bring me back all the money. And I'd make a list and I'd go to the grocery store. I was the only girl in the neighborhood, so I had this line of boys behind me, including my two brothers. And we'd go to Yates grocery store and I'd buy all these stacks, cheese whiz in a can, you know, and all the crackers. I made them the most lovely spread. And don't forget the Kool-Aid punch. And so that was our outdoor picnic, and that's as close as I came to being outdoors. Okay? I just can't do it. I don't understand. But I admire y'all that do. Listen, I know our next teller's got a story to tell. Because it's none other than that Mike Hobbs who's going to delight us with an outdoor story. Come on down, Mike. Oh, this is gonna be a good one.
How are you? Oh, can everybody hear me? Do I need the microphone?
No.
All right. What was that?
Not for me.
Not for you? All right. Well, some of you may not know it, but I'm a nerd. And from some of my stories, you probably understand what my big hobby is. My big hobby is I do Renaissance fairs on the weekends. But they're not the ones the public is allowed in. They're the ones for geeks like me. It's something called the Society for Creative Anachronism. The SCA?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I've been in it for 37 years now. Yeah. Yeah, since I was 23. That tells you how old I am. But anyway, so our biggest event is something called the Penzic War. And it happens in August every year. The public is not allowed in. And everybody is just so revved up to go. People come from all over the world, literally. I mean, you're sitting there drinking around the fire and next person over is speaking Swedish. That'll give you an idea. Or that person over there is speaking Thai. So we have people from all over the world. So we have a lot of stuff going on. There's archery, there's arts, there's battles, okay? Well, when I first started out, I tried to do the armor thing. And I am a complete and utter nerd anyway. So here I am, walking out on the battlefield in armor from head to foot, like this. Okay, I gotta hold a shield, okay. Let's go. Okay. Well, imagine if there are 500 of you in a line doing the exact same thing. Okay? And it's the height of August. Actually, I'm going in 2 weeks, by the way, to the next one, which will be the 50th Penzic. Okay? So, imagine you are in the battlefield, and you're going towards the enemy with wooden swords, by the way. They're rattan. You know, we hit each other, but we are not trying to hurt each other. Okay? So if you get hit a certain strength, it's a killing blow and you go down. But imagine there are 500 of you going like this, and you see the people at the top of the hill, 100 yards up, and you're going up, 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 and up, 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 okay, up, 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 and lightning hits the next hill over. You're like, and a downpour just starts. Okay, and what are you supposed to do? You're in metal from head to foot, and there's the lightning coming down. And we're trying to, you suddenly turn around, you try to fall down, and what happens? You trip, and you land on your shield. The next thing you know, you're sliding down that hill. It's like you're suddenly on some winter sleigh that you didn't know existed. And you're getting there, and you hit the bales of hay at the bottom, and you flip over. And then you realize, wow, that was fun. And that was the last year I fought in armor.
My goodness. I have so many questions. We'll talk.
There are 25,000 pre-regs already for the Penzic War this year. And they expect between 7,000 and 10,000 showing up at the gate.
Wow.
It's part of Pittsburgh.
It's north of
When,
Pittsburgh.
when it happens, it becomes the second largest town in the county for 2 weeks.
All right.
They actually require us to have disaster plans and all of that. Cranberry County.
I admire that. Okay. Now I know that probably made you think of another story you wanted to tell about something that happened outdoors. Now it could have been in the wintertime. It didn't have to be in the summertime. Because you know, I remember the blizzard, was it the blizzard of 78?
Yes.
And I worked for the Indiana Department of Public Instruction at the time. And we had several bad storms, and the state employees wanted to ask the governor, Otis Bowen, that whether or not the state offices would be closed. And he said, under no circumstances will we shut down government offices. So the next weekend, it started to snow. And it snowed. And it snowed. And it snowed. And I had a friend that was coming back from American Library Association meeting in Chicago. She said she had a black suit she had on. She had it on for 3 days in the airport. She refused to wear it again. People were stranded everywhere. Her husband was supposed to pick her up from the airport, but he decided to go back home in the snowstorm and the blizzard. We stayed in our apartment for a couple of days, but then we had friends. Like I lived at 38th and High School Road. We had friends on the north side of High School Road. And we finally decided, well, maybe we should go to Big E. That was a grocery store then. The mounds of snow were as tall as buildings. And we made our way down High School Road to Big E just in time for them to close the door. Because they had run out of everything. So we were standing there. The wind was whipping back and forth. And we had friends who lived in an apartment complex maybe a mile that way, and our house was a mile that way, and we looked and we thought, should we go to their house or should we go back home? Because if we go to their house, it's going to take us longer to get home. So against our better judgment, we went back home. And it was a week, I think we were off work. And I'll never forget the blizzard of 78. It was wonderful. That's my outdoor adventure. Well, now I pulled the name of No Beauty. Hey, No, I'm ready to hear your outdoor tale.
You can hear me, correct?
Yeah.
Everybody can? I love fishing. And
No, some people
no,
can't.
you can't hear me?
So take it off and hold it up.
All right, I'll try it. Better?
Yes.
Okay, I still love fishing. And you asked me, did I go fishing today? And the answer is yes. I already went. When I was a kid, we would go to southern Kentucky where my grandparents lived, and I was allowed to walk to different ponds around there. And so one morning, I told my grandfather that I was even taking a bucket with me because I was bringing fish back from Willie Jones Pond. And I went past the barn, down across the creek where the spring water was, up another hill to a gravel road, and I walked down the gravel road and I climbed Willie Jones' gate because he always told me not to leave the gate open, so I didn't bother opening it to begin with. And I walked down to his pond. There are cattle tracks and pig tracks all around the pond because it's just a cattle pond. And no trees, nothing like that around. And I had my new fishing rod with a lure called a marabou jig that my neighbor had given me. And I tied it on and I put a bobber above it and I started casting and reeling back in and casting, and I figured I'd do like a pattern like this. And I hooked the biggest bass I had ever seen. It was probably that long. But I was only 10 years old, so it was huge. And I took that bass, took it off the hook, and I put it in that bucket with water. and I was gonna take all the bass I caught home. And I started around the pond, and I walked, and I walked, and I cast, and I cast, and I caught a few more, and the next thing you know, I look up, and I'm clear across the other side of the pond from my bucket. And there is a sow trotting toward my bucket. And I am having a fit. I reel my reel in as fast as I can, and I start screaming, no, 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 just as she stuck her snout into that bucket, pulled that bass up with the tail flopping on one side and the head flopping on the other side, and she starts lumbering up the hill with me behind her. And I am swatting her as hard as I can with that rod, just trying to beat her till she let go of my bass. Well, she just chomped it in half and ate it. And I was so depressed. I grabbed that bucket, took my rod, all of my stuff, started walking home, climbed under the barbed wire fences, tried to kick grasshoppers and kill them on the way down through the field, and I was beyond mad. And I got up to my grandparents' house and walked onto the back porch to tell my grandfather I caught the biggest bass I've ever seen, but the hog ate it, knowing he wouldn't believe me. And he said, I know you did. Bertha, that's Willie's wife, called and said, Noble can fish anytime he wants in our pond, but tell him keep the gate shut and stop whipping our hog. If you don't know it, my father had told me my whole life that if you play with a sow, you're going to get your arm bit off or your leg bit off or dragged under the fence and killed. But it didn't matter because she had my bass. And now I don't fish in cattle ponds anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Kitchen closes at 8. Is it almost 8?
It's 7:30.
Oh, I got time.
Okay, there's some okra that someone purchased over here for Sam. Sam?
I did a while ago, I already got it. But,
There's more okra.
All right.
For another Sam.
I was gonna give me another Sam.
Listen, is there anybody else who wants to sign up to tell a story about an outdoor escapade? You know what I'm saying? You know, when I was in high school, I was in a play at IU Northwest. And the play was Pearly Victorious. And I remember going to rehearsals and having a good old time, and my mother was just exasperated because her high school student was hanging out with these college people. Well, we had a great show, and after the show, we went out to Miller Beach for our cast party. And I had gotten the best cake. I can't remember the name of the bakery anymore. A big old sheet cake. And we went out to the beach, made a bonfire, and we sat there and laughed and talked. I mean, I did a lot of things with those college students, like going to the Tivoli, which was a karaoke bar. And they would have the words on the screen and you could sing. I don't think I drank any beer in those days, but at any rate, my mother said to me she would be so glad when that play was over. But we sat out there and had the best cast party, and I think it wasn't time for the beach to be open. And then the police came. Okay, that's all I'm gonna tell you about that. Now I need to tell y'all that we're gonna meet. Did I tell you the date of the next Story Slam?
August.
It's in August. I told you the month.
August 16th.
Okay, August 16th is the date. And it's going to be at the Can Movie Theater. You'll love that. And listen, Is there anybody else who needs to sign up to tell a story? I know you've heard all these things, and there's a story you want to tell. But while you're thinking about it, Han, it's your turn.
Yes, Auntie. Auntie says, go do work. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
My name is Sue. How do you all do? Mine's my legal first name, so I like to use my performing name. I'm the ATM that's here, the American Taiwanese male. I'm here with the AMBW also. My wife's over there listening in. So let me know when this becomes too outrageous. I'm 40 years old. If y'all don't believe me, you can look at my fake driver's license from Hawaii. So I've been loving on it too. I used to be in the service. What? Closer. Closer? Is this better? All right. So the general, I'm used to this, miss. Yeah, if you do this, you're like louder. So I didn't know. I mean, some of us have hearing aids. So I'll tell a story about how I got this wonderful ear laceration. So I was in the service, Army. I was a paratrooper, jumping out of high performance aircrafts. I was a jump master too, to be exact. So I got to be the guy who has to check, the kids' equipment, make sure they got on all right. It was a wonderful 6-man team. It was my first sergeant at the time, Ronald Kiner. Older gentleman than me, but he was very experienced. I met him twice in my career. Christopher Meineke, nice gentleman. He was from Georgia. And also Josh Cucciarella. He's from Maine, but we won't talk about those Maine folks. They're not Midwesterners like us. And then a few other people, Fulton and Mitchell, they were our safeties. I was on the right side door. I was in charge of 32 people to be exact. I was actually the senior, so officially I was in charge of 64. We pack them in like sardines, just like how we're all packed in like sardines here. 32 to each side. The doors on the back side. The Air Force people, they're in the front flying this safe thing. Remember, they get to go up and come down. Not us. We got to exit out that back door. So what happens is we put on a 40-pound backpack. That's the parachute. We have a 15-pound main. And whatever equipment, operationally we need. I was a team leader at the time, so I had to pack additional about 65 pounds of equipment. So overall, I weighed about 240 with my 150 butt. It's all right. We shuffle around a lot. So whenever we're packed into like sardines, I'm a jump master, so I have to make sure everybody's going in safely. We give instructions and commands to everybody. Stand up, hook up, shuffle to the door. I'm the guy in charge, so I have to be the first one out. Green light. Go! Hey, perfect timing. And as everyone's exiting, I'm making sure all the static lines, the ones that pulls on it, doesn't get caught and tangled. But one kid, remember, they're young service members, anywhere from 18 to my age. I'm 37 at this time. Or sometimes they throw it, and you can't control it. Remember, this is 8 foot long. It's got about like an 8-ounce metal hook on the end of it. That thing is a little bit dangerous. Flings back around, cuts my ear. Not a big deal. That's not the point of the story. I still get everybody out the door. I'm bleeding profusely. My buddy Cucciarella is like, "Hey Sue, you'll be all right?" I was like, "Yeah, it's perfectly fine." It's like, well, it's my turn to get out of the door because I send 32 people out. Whose turn is it? The guy in charge to make sure everything's all right. I exit, but something bad happened. There I am on the side of the aircraft. My parachute didn't deploy. I was just dangling and just slapping the side of the wind. Josh, Christopher, and all of them, Ronald, even my first sergeant, like, "Sue, you all right?" It's like, I'm never doing this again, ever again. But remember, it's blowing. We're about 1,000 feet up in the air, going approximately 120 miles an hour. They can't hear me for nothing. And remember, there's a lot of weight on there. They're using this big old crank to pull me back in. I, thank goodness, had a little combat boot on it. I told him, I gave him the signal, I'm dropping. Cut my static line, I'm free falling. The good news is, remember, I still have a reserve in my front. Got it. And we decided to, I decided personally, pull it. Life's worth living, right? Landed on the ground, roll up my reserve, packed everything in, everything's hunky-dory. Ronald landed next to me is like, "Sue, you all right?" I was like, "How can I not be all right, First Sergeant? I exit just in front of you. So what are you going to have me do next?" It's like, "Well, you still got to get back to work. Go to an arms room and make sure everything gets turned in." That's all right. Everyone wants to go home, right? My name is Stu, everybody. Thank you all for your time. I perform at Crackers and other places.
Well, what happened to the ear?
Oh,
What happened to? Okay. But did they repair it? I mean, did you go see somebody?
The doctor, medic, yeah.
All right, we're just worried. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Listen, you know, when we sit here and we can't breathe because we don't know what's going to happen. Okay. Anyway, is there anyone else who has an outdoor story? Come on down. Yes. Sure. You want to have one?
I'm gonna give him slips. I'm giving slips.
Was you talking to me? No, I was talking to the lady behind you, but I don't care who comes. But you're next. Oh, I do have some more names in here.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
So don't
snuck them in.
So don't make me next then.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Okay.
But I don't know where the
Did you sign up?
Oh, there's other people more.
I'm gonna get you a slip. She got called, but I'm gonna give you a slip to sign up.
Oh no,
Okay.
let her go.
Yay.
Tell us your name.
My name's Marilyn. Can everybody hear me?
No. Use the mic.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Marilyn. I grew up in East Central Indiana, about 40 miles from here, in a town that's so small, it has a small dot on the map. I mean, that's how small it is. The dot's small. My brother and I were, the kids that would sort of try anything to see what happened. One day we were riding our bikes. We had a ditch in front of our house, pretty good sized ditch for a little kid to look at. We decided to ride our bikes into it to see what would happen. Sometime later in the day, we both woke up in a tangle with our bike at the bottom of the ditch. We don't know how long we've been out, but we were still alive, so things are good. But the story I wanted to tell you is, I walked into a tornado one day. We lived out in this little tiny town, like I said. It had 3 streets going one way and 2 streets going the other way, and maybe 100 people, I don't know. And we lived 2 houses out of town. So I was walking into the little town every so often to get something from the grocery. And this tornado hit. And I'm at home with my husband and 2 kids and 2 dogs. And I decided to walk into the tornado to see what will happen. So I put on my jacket and my jeans and I decided to walk out. And it was like I had a bubble around me. You know, I didn't even get much of the wind. I don't know what was going on, but how am I doing on time? Okay? Okay. I walked into town and there were trees like this big a trunk and about 30 feet tall. And the top of the trees were hitting the street and the lightning was hitting and it was like daylight, from daylight to dark, to daylight to dark. And I'm walking around and watching all these trees and it still gives me chills thinking about it. It was so incredibly beautiful. I could not believe that I had the fortune to be there. And I thought, if I have to die, let me go now. This is the way to do it. But like I said, I had 2 kids at home, so I had to go back home and put them to bed. Otherwise, I would have stayed out until the storm.
Girl, you was trying to commit suicide. Suicide by tornado. Come on, Tracy, don't sit back down. Come on, girl. Yeah.
You sure you follow her?
Yes.
Nobody follows like you, baby.
Mm-hmm. That's why I couldn't find it.
Hold it.
Oh, I'll come get you.
Okay.
Take your time.
Okay.
I still got some beer left.
Okay.
Woo. It's getting a little warm.
Your chair.
You don't
No.
Yeah.
All you good people out there telling these nice, wholesome outdoor stories. I feel so ashamed to tell this story because you're all so wholesome from Indiana, and so am I. But I'm not that wholesome. Okay. All right, I was wholesome, and I was corrupted. I guess I was about 19 years old. I got a job, and the first summer I came home from college. And I think I've mentioned this before, but I was a hot little number back then. Okay? And so, thank you. And so I met this guy who, and I was a speech, this is very important, I was a speech and theater major in college. And I always thought that if I didn't succeed at acting, I would be a speechwriter. I could write for the president or some political person. I could do this. So this guy, he was a photographer. And he told me, oh, you should be modeling. You look so good, you could be modeling. Let me take some photos of you. And I said, okay. So he said, bring a couple of outfits and you can change and whatnot. Okay, no problem. And it was a bridge somewhere here in Indiana. Since I haven't lived here in many years, I cannot remember where it was. But it had a little hill that you could go down and some trees and all this outdoor stuff. And he took all these beautiful pictures of me in my dress first and then in my jeans. And then he convinced me, I don't know how, to do a topless shoot. And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, oh yeah, you could do it. I'll give you the pictures. No problem, no worries. Well, me being the, I don't even know what to say, the wholesome Indiana girl that I was, I went ahead and submitted. And all the hand was back and all this with the jeans on and I was posing every which way. Well, I got those pictures, but not those pictures. He did not give me those pictures. And then I said to myself, you can't be a speechwriter anymore for a president. Those pictures are gonna show up somewhere. You have to give up that dream. Nobody is going to want you to write speeches for them and you pose nude. Well, you wasn't really nude, you was just topless. So I never did get those pictures. He did give me the other pictures. I think I still have some. I think even one of them my husband had on his desk for years and years and years. But I don't know what happened to those topless pictures, but I do know what happened to my career as a speech person.
Shades of Miss America.
Sorry.
And I'm trying to think where that bridge was probably on Butler's campus. We're gonna find it. We're gonna find it. Yeah, I know, right? But it was before the internet, so be blessed.
Way before.
Okay, that was hilarious. That was hilarious. Hey, we got another teller here. I'm trying to stall so that our scorers have time to write. You know, I don't really have another outdoor service like I tell you. Don't do it. Deborah Santi is our next teller. We can't wait to hear this outdoor escapade.
Well, okay, this happened a long time ago. I'm an Army brat. I was brought up all over the world. I came of age in Oakland, California during the Black Arts movement of the 70s. And so I was very much in love with Really? That's a long way back. I was very much in love with finding out about my heritage and learning more and connecting myself to Africa. I wanted to know, where did I come from? So in my starlet days in Los Angeles, I got a chance to go to Ghana, West Africa. And I was so excited. I got off the plane, and it was back in those days, you didn't walk through a little walkway to the airport. You got down these stairs. And when I walked down the stairs, I felt like I was in Arkansas, where my people are from. Because I was like, oh, I'm in Africa, but this is Arkansas weather. That humid hotness. I was like, I'm home. You know, so I'm like walking, and I stayed at a hotel that was right on the beach. And I was out walking the beach, and I found a lock that was like an old lock, like with a keyhole lock, on the beach in Ghana, West Africa. And immediately my imagination connected me with my ancestors who had been taken away from maybe that very beach. So I picked up this lock and I'm like, oh my God, the history I'm holding in my hand, my imagination went wild. So I'm sitting on the beach and I'm like having a moment with this lock and feeling myself and my connection. And an old man walks up to me. And I'm sitting down. He's in a white buba and has a kufi on. And he says, hey, go. I said, I'm a grown woman. And how dare he? My arrogance rose up. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I was in my mid-20s and feeling like I know everything. I still feel that way. But I looked at him, I said, no, thank you. I'm fine. And he stepped back from me and he kind of bent down and I thought he was going to grab me. And it must have showed on my face that I was a little afraid. And he threw his arms back and he shook his head. You go back. And I said, you were raised to respect your elders. Because I really wanted to tell him, get away from me. You messing with my moment. But I didn't. I picked my lock up and I said, okay, I'm going back to the hotel. He said, yes, to the hotel. So I go back and I had gotten me something to drink as soon as I got in because I was really upset. I felt like I need to calm down. So I got something to drink at the bar. And I'm drinking this cocktail with my lock sitting on the bar. And I hear this hollering going on. And these two men run in. They're European, so I don't know what they're saying. They're European, I don't know what they're saying, but they're like hollering out. And I said, what is going on? What's going on? And the waitress said, those men were at the beach and they were robbed. They were robbed because they were in their underwear. I mean, they were mugged. They were like stripped. They were in their underwear. And one of them was crying. And I'm like, and in the corner, near the lobby, was the old man who had told me to get up and go. And he looked, and he caught my eye. And I looked at him, and I just did my head down, and he saved me that day. He knew that this young, foolish girl was out here having this moment with her imagination, and the sun was going down on the beach, and he took care of me. Thank you.
You never know. That was amazing. Thank you, Deb. But now, when you saw the old man, the first time he said go back, he would just get up, right?
Now I would, right. Because I thought I knew what I was doing, and I really didn't.
Now we know wisdom, y'all, wisdom. Listen, I got another outdoor story that's going to be told by William Pride. William, come on down. Hi there.
I will need this because my voice doesn't boom like some people. But first, before I start, I've got to get permission to use a word that's not used anymore in mixed company. So I need, if you think that I shouldn't use the word,
Just don't even tell us.
don't tell me. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. From the time I was about 6 until the time that I was probably, well, in high school. Every summer we went camp, Camp Dogwood, a place about 20 miles from where I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. Camp Dogwood was affiliated with the center that we grew up in. So we got used to being outdoors every summer, at least the 10 days that the camp went on. So when we got older and able to drive, me and a couple of my friends, Billy Smith and Michael Vincent, we decided we were going to go camping at this place about 40 miles west of Nashville called Montgomery Bell State Park. Now, we're looking at 1969 or 1970. And back during those days, not everybody was welcome everywhere in rural Tennessee. And I think Michael and me and Billy were probably 3 people that might not have been welcome in Montgomery Bell State Park in 1969 or 1970. But we went anyway. They let us in. I think it cost maybe $5 to get in back then. We had a tent, we set up, and of course we had food too, and we a campfire. That's something we learned in Camp Dogwood. We built a campfire, we ate there, slept there, had a good time, went fishing like Mr. Fisherman from wherever he is. And we just had a really good time. So the first night we went to bed, and we heard somebody moving in next door to us. But it was dark. We didn't know who they were. They didn't know who they were moving in next door to. But we heard the ruckus over there. And I was like, what do they get moving in next door to us? But we didn't bother to go and find out who they were. We just decided, well, in the morning, we'll maybe go over there and introduce ourselves to them. So the next morning, when we woke up and looked out and saw who moved in next door to us, and when they saw us, you wouldn't believe what they did. They started packing up and leaving. We went, what? Well, this is Camp Montgomery Bell State Park. What's wrong with moving in for a couple of days next to us? I don't know. But we, back then, there was a song that we all learned. And I think it was Michael who decided he was going to sing it. He sung it loud enough that our neighbors could hear us. And I'm not the best singer, but you can probably get the gist of this song. We started singing, people moving out, people moving in, why? Because of the cover of the sin. Run, 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 but you sure can't hide. I don't know if you guys remember that song. Yeah. I was gonna say, most of you not old enough to heard that when it was new. But anyway, they did. I mean, they got out of town quick. And, we all got a really good laugh out of that. They want to move just because we're next door to them. What's that all about? But after they left, surely they found another spot that, I don't know, maybe wasn't contaminated like the spot they got first. But we were okay. We didn't mind living next door to them for, a couple of nights, but they obviously didn't want to live next door to us. Later on, as we went down, doing our business, fishing, and doing whatever we had to do, on our way back to our campsite, there was a big Winnebago home. And there were two people in lounge chairs sitting, and they had a couple of dogs. And these dogs were making one heck of a racket, just running around, making all kinds of noise. And this young lady saw us. And she said, calling to her dogs, "Here, nigger baby." And that black dog took off running towards her. And the white dog didn't move. And between the three of us, we got another big chuckle. What is that all about? What about seeing us makes you think that you need to make a distinction between your two dogs? I don't understand it. But that was then, and this is now. Hopefully things are a little bit different now than they were then. Thank you.
I've been doing some research on that. People had a penchant for naming their dogs that.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes. But did you stay the whole time is my question. Did you stay for the whole time?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. That's all I want to know. Okay. Cindy Carr, it's your turn.
Hello.
Hello.
In May, I went on a solo hiking adventure in England. The company that organized it planned my itinerary and scheduled my lodging, gave me a GPS app, moved my suitcase from one inn to the next. So I just walked out the door with my day pack and walked my 10 miles from one village to the next through peaceful, pastoral, beautiful countryside. It was really fantastic. Now in England, they have a very different approach to the idea of public and private property land. It's pretty much the opposite of how we think about it here. In England, the default is you can walk there, go ahead. The land is there for people to use and to walk on. So unless somebody specifically designates their property as dangerous and not suitable for people to walk, you can walk there. In England, they have thousands and thousands of miles of hiking trails. Brits are such avid walkers. They have long-distance national trails. They have public footpaths everywhere. They have local hiking trails. And because of this approach to all of the land being accessible, a lot of times on these trails, you're walking through a farmer's field or along the edge of a hedge by a field. So I got used to that, and I saw literally thousands of sheep. And the sheep were funny to watch, interesting to listen to their chorus of baas. And sheep are pretty timid. So as you approach the sheep on the path through the farmer's field, they would just amble away. I also saw a fair number of horses. Horses would just plant themselves in the middle of the path and look at you until you walked around them. But the most troubling was the cows. I wasn't expecting to be on the same path as that many cows. And one day, I was walking along, had not seen another person for an hour or more, beautiful pastoral setting, there was a little stream, and I decided, well, this is a good place to sit down and have my lunch and take a little break. So I'm sitting there looking at the stream, and I see something out of the corner of my eye. Through the hedge, about 30 feet up the hill, comes a line of cows. No farmer or anything, just the cows decided it was time to be in a different pasture. So the cows are coming, they're walking along the top of the hill, and I'm like, well, I'll just sit here quietly, and they probably won't notice me. And I keep an eye out, and I notice, oh shoot, they stopped, and they're looking at me. So cows like to stare. They stare at you with those big old huge brown eyes. And I didn't really want to turn around and stare back at them. So I thought, I'll get my phone and I'll just, put it in selfie mode and I'll be able to watch them and make sure that they walk on by. So I pick up my phone, I put it on selfie mode, and there, right behind me, were cows. So the beginning of the line had already walked on and seen me and come down the hill. And they were quiet, so I didn't know they were there. Now, these are big animals, and I was sitting on the ground by their big old hooves, and they had horns. And so again, I thought, maybe if I just sit really still, they'll just ignore me and go away. No, that didn't work. They just got more and more curious to the point where they were snuffling me like a dog does. And I was just really kind of terrified because they were just such big animals and because I was sitting, and I couldn't immediately get away. So after a while, after just curling into a smaller and smaller ball, I realized that's not going to work. I'm just going to have to get up and hope that they don't, go for me. So I just slowly stood up and the cows all went, whoa. That's a real person. Okay, we were right, it's a person. And so I was able to walk away quickly off the field. So I walked to my next inn, and as soon as I got there, I rinsed out my cow slobbery clothes in the sink.
Oh, that's hilarious. I probably will start saying steak, ground beef, oxtail, okay? That's hilarious. Thank you so much. Well, listen, I pulled out another name. I don't want to rush our scorekeepers, but I'm going to talk as slowly as I can because our next teller is Jack Black. Come on, Jack.
One of our first dinner dates, she mentioned her boat. I had immediate second thoughts. She said, boat. Some weird rich people thing, right? But she didn't give weird rich people vibes, so I thought, okay, at least get the story. And the story was, in college, she signed up for a sailing course for phys ed credit. Why not? And she fell in love with it. And later, driving by for sale on the road, she saw this little whimsically bulbous little 20-foot cruiser fiberglass from the 1970s. Like the nearest you can get to a carpet-covered VW bus that you can put sails on. And she smashed her piggy bank to bring that home, and that's what she was doing with a boat. And she taught me, and we brought it to the Lafayette Sailing Club, which is a thing, even if it's really on Lake Freeman. And the members sometimes arranged longer trips, like haul some boats up to Lake Michigan and spend a long weekend stopping at some towns up the coast. And we joined one of those, and we had a late start, so the other members were way ahead of us. We could reach them on radio, we could not see their boats. And the weather was just fine, sunny and mild, and a nice steady breeze a few miles offshore. And Lake Michigan right there was so blue and so clear and inviting that it gave us a splendid idea. We tied off a line and trailed it astern with a float cushion tied on the end. And I climbed down and just let that run through my hand until I just clung on the end to be pulled through the lake with the power and silence, just the wind in the sails. And when I couldn't stand how fabulous that was anymore, I pulled myself back up to the boat and took the helm, and it was her turn. And she had more style than just climbing down the stern ladder. She took a graceful dive off the side and turned and made with lithe, sure stroke. So I had it pretty bad for this woman, okay? Plus, I just like the word lithe, sure strokes. Not right for where that cushion was at the end of the line, but for where it was going to be when she got there. And she only misjudged by inches, and that's how I wound up single-handing a 20-foot boat with the sails nicely set in a nice steady breeze off and away from my beloved, bobbing in the Lake Michigan swells miles from any shore. And I had book learning for all the things that had to happen next. So fling her some high visible flotation, push waypoint on the GPS to be able to get back to this spot, or read it off on the radio, make a radio call, and oh yes, manage the sails and get the boat's course reversed. And with a trained crew of 5, there'd be someone doing each one of those things, and one with the key job to just stand and point and never let her out of sight, whatever happened. And it was just me. And not one of those other things could be done with my eyes on her. In the plus column, she was okay. She'd gone in by choice, not knocked over. She wasn't injured. The water wasn't cold. There was no engine noise. The wind and the seas were quiet enough for her voice to carry, and even if I couldn't always see her, she could see the sails. So we both caught up with the rest for dinner at the next planned stop, and we swapped stories of a lovely day on the water. We were a little selective with the details of ours, but it was a fine ending to an unforgettable day.
That's hilarious. Remind me not to go sailing with you. I realized my cousin had a sailboat. They lived off the coast of Massachusetts. And he took us, we had waded through the cranberry fields. We'd done that experience. We were doing the whole Massachusetts thing. And when he showed us the sailboat, we said, My mother's words were, I can't drink that much water. And so we went back to the house. Anyway, I'm telling you, I'm not an outdoor girl, not at all. But let me tell you about one outdoor story. My grandparents in North Carolina, my dad's folks, lived on a farm. And my grandfather did not farm, he was a carpenter. And little city kids were just so excited to be down there on the farm. Like the rest of the kids, we took off our shoes, we ran through all the dirt, we ate the scupperdong grapes off the vine, we went to the tomato patch and picked tomatoes off and ran in the house to wash them, slice them, and put salt and pepper on them. By that time, my cousins had just brushed the dirt off and eaten them like apples. So we learned quickly. But I want you to know that I am not a country girl. So one day, my cousins had to go pick cotton. And I begged and I pleaded with my mom, let me go with them, let me go with them, let me go with them. She said, no, child, you can't go. But finally, she succumbed. And I joined my cousins with this huge, long burlap sack trailing behind me like it was a sail on a sailboat. I had a hat on my head. We went out to the field, and there's a technique to picking cotton. You just can't pull the whole thing off. You got to pluck the cotton out the bowls, okay? And I had plucked and thrown. I looked back. I couldn't see a dent in my bag. The sun had risen high in the sky, and I was hot, and I was tired, and my cousins battled over who would get the little bit of cotton that I had indeed picked. When I got back to the house, my mother was standing at the door waiting on me because she knew her child. And that's the last time I picked anything in anybody's garden. It's a true story. But now we want to listen to Gloria Danielson. Come on down.
Yes. It says bad choices make good stories. I really can't tell which way is up. So I let out a little bit of air, and following the bubbles, I pushed my way to the surface. My husband is clinging to our capsized canoe, and although it's only about 15 feet away, it takes about every bit of my energy to swim through these 3-foot waves. There's an island in the distance, but swimming to that island in these waves, towing this canoe, seems like a fatal mistake. So we decide to stay put. Eventually, we see another canoe. "We can't help you," as they paddle by. Later, a second canoe, and they paddle by too. I can't blame them. I'm a water safety instructor. Save yourself is rule number 1. It's my husband and I who have broken all the safety rules. We can't expect anyone else to do the same. But now my teeth are chattering, and I'm going into hypothermia. We're in serious trouble. And what seemed like a choice before is now no choice at all. We either try to make it to that island, or we likely drown right here. So, with one hand each on the canoe, we kick and rest, kick and rest, kick and rest. Our outdoors escapade did not begin in disaster. We entered the Boundary Waters Canoe Wilderness area 5 days earlier to bright sunshine and the anticipation of getting away from it all. And if you want to get away from it all, Boundary Waters is the place to go. It's got over 1 million acres of wilderness, thousands of lakes and rivers, over 1,200 miles of canoe routes. And to keep it wild, the Forestry Service only lets so many people in at a time. In fact, we've only seen one other canoe way off in the distance the entire time we've been here. We have no cell phones. We don't have a satellite phone. We don't have GPS. Other than somewhere in the Boundary Waters, no one knows where we are. Mission accomplished. However, today's the day we leave. We have 5 lakes, 3 portages to go before sunset. And although the sky is getting dark, we don't have time to wait for a storm to pass by. By the time we get to the 3rd lake, which is the biggest lake we have to paddle, the sky is black. The shortest distance from where we put in to where our next portage is right down the middle. By the time we get to a spot where we cannot see shore in any direction, all hell breaks loose. The sky opens up and the rain pours down in buckets. The wind howls and kicks up these waves, and in the blink of an eye, we're in the water. And so we kick and rest, kick and rest. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, a 3rd canoe appears. They throw us a tow rope. They pull us to the calm side of the island, and they say, "Good luck," as they go on their way. We bail the water out of the canoe, and then we put on those life jackets that we had clipped to the bottom. And then I do what will be one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life. I get back in that canoe. I am so scared, I am sobbing. But about 10 strokes in, a Gloria Gaynor song pops in my head. Now, I only know 4 lines, but it's enough. I sing, shout these 4 lines through 2.5 lakes and 1 portage. Did you think I'd crumble? Did you think I'd lay down and die? Oh no, not I. I will survive.
brave people, okay? We're getting our yellow slips together so you can complete them so that you may be entered into a drawing for free tickets to the Indiana State Fair on August 4th. Come to the Liars Contest at the Pioneer Village. This also includes a parking pass. So this is like woo-woo. Listen, I hope to see you on August, did you tell me 16th? Did you tell me the 16th? You know the date.
16.
This is 16th, okay. And the theme is puzzles, all right? And it's at the Can Movie Theater in a private room. Ooh, that's gonna be swanky. If you've not been there before, it's a glorious experience. Remember, I thought that when some of you started telling stories, I thought maybe you were practicing your tall tale. So now there are two different categories for tall tales, adult and children. So if you want to work on that tall tale for the Liars Contest, please do it. Show up by 7 o'clock, register, and hopefully you'll win some cash. At any rate, remember our sponsors, Maestro Organizing and WFYI, as well as Freetown Village and Storytelling Arts of Indiana. And I don't have no more outdoor stories I can tell you because your girlfriend believes in motels, hotels, and Holiday Inns. So she is not out there. Anybody need pens? We've had some good songs here tonight. Thank you so much for coming. Tell your friends. Bring somebody new with you when you come. And it's good to see new faces. I appreciate that. I'm really trying hard to think about another outdoor story. Yeah, I'm just not going to do it. Okay? I got friends that are my age. They are hiking mountains. Okay? They are running marathons. I just do good to walk in the door. Okay? With my cane. But I'm working on it. See if I can run a lap around this room before next March. Okay? That's my goal. But right now, I am so glad to see you. Do we have any results yet? Nope. Nope. Well, let me tell you another story then about me not going outside. We're going to collect those slips. Who's collecting the slips?
I will in a second.
Okay. You know, when you go outside, you find varmints that you don't necessarily want to put in your pot. Now, my daddy was good at running across people who had half a goat, a couple of rabbits, a possum, or a raccoon. And he would bring these items home to my mama and have her cook them. Oh, yes. She wouldn't mind if they had already been skinned, you know, and all she had to do was just season them up. Like I know you can really brown that rabbit and make some really good gravy with rabbits. We used to have rabbits at my elementary school. And when they bring the rabbit down the hall, because some kid would take the rabbit home for the weekend, and as a parent was walking with them out the door, I would say, I got a recipe for that. The kid didn't understand, but the parents did. Thank you. Now listen, I know we're going to take pictures of these fantastic tellers tonight. And our third place winner is that proper Hoosier girl, Tracy Wynn. Congratulations. Our second place winner is Deborah Asante. Yeah. Y'all really didn't say that right. Okay. Well, we know what it is. And our first place winner is Gloria Danielson. Congratulations. You know, I've learned some things here tonight. Like, you know, my grandmother used to go fishing. And she fished in the Big Black River down there in Mississippi. And her daughters were upset that she requested a pair of hip waders. So she called my mama and my auntie, who were really her stepchildren. And they said, how much money do you need for them hip waders? And so she would go and she would catch all the catfish you ever wanted to eat. Now, if you ever caught a catfish, no. You know it's a lot of work to cook a catfish. So I learned from her how to take the hatchet and chop off its head, take a pair of pliers and pull the skin off. And I'm telling you, that's some of the best you ever wanted to have. Cooking catfish from the Black River in Mississippi. Now, we've been spoiled that we could go to Myers or Kroger's or Kaplinger's and get catfish fillets. That's all I'm eating. But back in the day, I never knew I could do it. That and killing a chicken. We'll talk about that next time. All right, we're going to have a drawing. We're going to have everybody's entry.